Although Mark's reintegration in Severance Season 2 was seemingly going well, nothing eventually came out of it. This story progression makes it hard not to wonder whether Regaby's reintegration method has failed. Since Severance Season 1, reintegration has been one of the most intriguing concepts in the Apple TV Plus sci-fi show. According to Regaby, successful reintegration promises to overlap a severed individual's innie and outie personas. However, despite Regaby's best efforts to convince Mark to get reintegrated, Mark initially remains apprehensive about the procedure. After seeing Petey die in Severance Season 1, Mark cannot help but question whether he would meet the same fate if he agreed to get reintegrated. Regaby still manages to convince him in Season 2's initial episodes by confirming that Gemma is still alive in Lumen. Realizing that he can only save his wife if he gets reintegrated, Mark allows Regaby to start the process. However, what initially seems like one of the most important story developments in Severance Season 2 later takes a backseat, raising many questions about the effectiveness of the process. So far, Regaby has failed to reintegrate both Mark and Petey. Petey died, and Mark barely survived. Petey died in Severance Season 1 after he opted to get reintegrated. Instead of taking some accountability for his demise, Regaby dismissed it by claiming that Petey started ignoring her after getting reintegrated. She assures Mark that if he had listened to her and taken the necessary provisions to look after himself, the reintegration process would not have killed him. Since Regaby seems to know what she is doing, one cannot help but believe her. However, by the end of Severance Season 2, it becomes evident that Regaby's reintegration procedure, so far, has been a failure. In Severance Season 2's early episodes, she seems to do a decent job initiating Mark's reintegration. This allows Mark's innie and outie to get visions of their alternate lives, proving that, deep down, some parts of them have been reintegrated. However, even after Regaby floods Mark's chip and nearly kills him in the hope of escalating the process, Mark seems far from achieving full reintegration. His two personas maintain separate identities, and his innie even refuses to believe reintegration works. Owing to this, it would be fair to conclude that Regaby has failed. Coble might find a way to reintegrate Mark in Severance Season 3. Coble might have already figured out how reintegration works. Adam Scott as Mark and Patricia Arquette as Coble in Severance custom image by Dhruv Sharma. Just because Mark has not achieved full reintegration does not mean the process has been a complete failure. Severance Season 2 establishes that since both versions of Mark experience and perceive space and time differently, it will be a while before they align. Some aspects of the two characters' personalities have also seemingly overlapped. For instance, the fact that Mark's innie goes through so much trouble to save Gemma in Severance Season 2's finale suggests that a part of him feels his outie's grief for his wife, even though he decides to stay behind with Helly. In Severance Season 2, Coble, too, finally breaks free from the spell Lumen had cast on her and decides to switch sides after realizing how Jame Egan took credit for her inventions and gave her nothing in return. The fact that Coble invented the severance procedure and all the override protocols surrounding it suggests that she would know about the possibility of reintegration more than anyone else. Coble even tries to convince the board in Severance Season 1 that reintegration is possible, proving that it can be achieved. By combining her knowledge of the procedure with Regaby's learnings from her experiments, Coble might be able to help Mark achieve full reintegration in Severance Season 3. However, after Severance Season 2's events, Regaby seems less reliable than Coble. The way she has been experimenting on Mark despite seeing what the reintegration did to Petey makes it hard not to wonder if she is secretly working for Lumen. Hopefully, Severance will wholly explore the reintegration storyline in Season 3 instead of treating it as a mere plot device to move the narrative forward.